to the Hoopstrology podcast, brought to you by the Bayou City. My name is Jesus Acevedo Jr. I'm one of your hosts, and I'm joined by the Zodiac GM, who is my co-host, or the host. Are we both co-hosts? We are both co-hosts. Zodiac GM, how are you doing?
Welcome. Good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. You know, we just I should say. Last night we watched Game 2 in the NBA Finals, so it's going to be an NBA Finals heavy episode, but there's also going to be one surprise topic that the Zodiac GM does not know what the topic is. I didn't want to tell him. I kind of want to see how good he is, how quick he is on his feet. Obviously, the topic is going to have to do something with basketball and something with astrology. So I'm going to throw that surprise topic at you at the end. Are you ready, Zodiac?
Oh, I'll be ready.
I love it. But first, our first three topics, we're going to answer three questions, Zodiac. And obviously, two questions are going to deal with the NBA Finals, and one is going to be about a coaching situation. But first, the NBA Finals, because that's where it's at right now. Everybody who loves basketball is watching these NBA Finals. And look, when the NBA Finals first started, Zodiac, we were expecting a competitive series, two teams with a lot of talent, right? So the first question I want to ask is, we're going to talk about Boston being up 2-0 in this series. And the first question is, what is Boston doing right? Zodiac. And before we get into the astrological aspect, in your eyes, what has Boston done right in this series to be up 2-0?
Everything right. One is actually they're playing at home. I think it's always an edge, right, for any team that's playing at home. So that's sort of like that +2 extra, whatever you call it, power points or whatever. But they're doing everything right. I think the key is the defense. They've shut down the lob game that Dallas has been really, really good with in the past month or so and during the playoffs. So I think cutting that lob game with Lively and also Gafford, I mean that shuts off a big part of their offense. I think game one, Luka had negative. I mean, he only had one assist. And that was it, or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But that's one big thing. But of course, they're clicking. They're everything is going their way. And Dallas, I feel like they have to change it up a little bit. But
we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. We're gonna stay on Boston because I think you hit it on the head as far as what Boston is doing is that.
Yeah.
The Boston Celtics have the right personnel to match up with Dallas. As far as defense, I think Boston was the second best defensive team in the league the whole season, most of the season. At least at the end of the season, Minnesota was first. But what makes this matchup different for Mavs is, like you said, they can switch every pick and roll, and they're confident in their 5 players that they can guard every position. That's why they've gotten rid of that lob game. So. Luka's going to get his, as we saw in Game 2. He had, 30-something points? What do you have, 30, 31 points, 30 points? So he's going to get his. He had a lot, right? Yeah. He's going to get his points because the Celtics are daring everybody else to beat them, and that includes Kyrie Irving. Let's be honest, Kyrie Irving hasn't been there, but we'll talk about it. But to me, with the Celtics is defense. It starts with the defense, and the thing that they're doing right is they have a better team than the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks perhaps have 2 better individual players, but what Boston Celtics are doing right is that they have the better team overall, right? They can go 6, 7 deep. I think their top 6 players are pretty up there as far as efficiency as well. And that's even with Tatum. We're talking about what they're doing right. What they're doing wrong is Tatum hasn't really had a Jason Tatum-like game. It was Jaylen Brown in Game 1.
You don't need to.
Don't need to. And he answered that. He said, why am I going to mess up what we're doing? Granted, he took the most shots out of any player in Game 2. But still, we saw the ball movement. And look, Jaylen Brown was Game 1. Drew Holiday, my Gemini twin, was Game 2. And I think that's what they're doing right. Now, as far as astrology, you told us both of these teams are very strong. I think when you gave the slight edge to Boston as far as astrology. Now, yes. I think when you come to the NBA Finals, right, both teams are going to have synergy. I think what's going to separate it is the talent and also the coaching. And I think in this case, Boston just has the better personnel, Zodiac.
Exactly. Yeah. The way I see it, I think the dominance from Mavericks has been gone through the West based on their top 2 best players, Doncic and Irving. But I think once it comes down to the Boston Celtics, you're dealing with a different animal. You're dealing with a complete team, and I think this is the time where you really have to change your game up a little bit, and I think that's where actual synergy has to kick in, you know.
No,
And what
no,
is that?
no. That
Mhm.
it's interesting you say that because I know you want to jump to the Mavs. We're almost there. We're not yet there, Zodiac. So
Yeah,
speaking of Boston, something I remember you told me in the preview. You said White was going to be very pivotal to
yeah.
this series. His synergy, and I also
Hmm.
want to bring up somebody else that I know we talked about, but that's why it's Drew Holiday. Him being a Gemini, being that mutual
Yeah,
presence. They needed him to be a scoring game too. And he's like, all right, let me mutate into a scorer. And that's what he
you're right.
became, right?
Yeah. The reason why I mentioned Derek White is because of that cardinal energy, right? That cardinal energy that you have in a team that brings that leadership, right? Even though he may not seem like, or people don't even look at him as like, oh, a leader, but he's an actual leader. Believe it or not, he's based on the way the team is constructed, right? I want to call him he's an enabler. Like, what does that mean? And he enables other energies to do what they do best, right? Because if you take him out, that sort of keeps their team sort of stagnant, kind of. It blocks that extra flow of energy that they need to get the best version out of them, right? So that's what Derek White does, and it's proven. He's proved it ever since he's been. He was acquired to the Boston Celtics. They were sort of that mediocre team, right? But once they got him, they started winning a lot of games. They made it to the NBA Finals that year that Udoka was there. Until now, they have one of the best records with Derek White in the starting lineup in the whole entire league. And granted, they added two extra stars on top
Mhm.
of that, which makes it an even hard matchup problems for opposing teams. I mean, you're looking at a 7'3", shooter that and Porzingis that could shoot, that can post. I mean, and that could block. That's tough. And an elite point guard, the Gemini, as you mentioned, the tricks of all trade, the one that can guard the best player on your opposing team. So
Yeah.
they have a strong team, but really the key is Derek White, with that cardinal energy. He's a Cancer, that brings that emotional aspect to it. He's sort of like that quiet leader. Think of Kawhi Leonard. He's also a Cancer. Think of Williamson, right? He's also a Cancer. Think of Ray
Mhm.
Allen. He's also a Cancer. Like, those are the leaders that they don't. It depends on what their moon sign is and all these other stuff in the birth chart, but they are that leader. I was watching football the other day. Andre Johnson, right, from the Houston
Mhm.
Texans. They mentioned that how, yeah, he didn't consider himself as a leader, but the whole team looked at him as a leader because he just brings that presence. And I looked up his signs. Sure enough, he was a Cancer, right? So,
Mhm.
like, it's that type of that synergy that makes a team complete. Mavericks do have it, but they don't have it as good, as strong as the Boston Celtics. So I think that's
Interesting.
the reason why they
Now,
are there.
and now we can talk about the Dallas Mavericks and what they need to do. And we were talking about how you were talking about how Derek White brings that cardinal energy to the Boston Celtics starting lineup and to their core six, and that's among other good things that they're doing to be up 2-0. So for Dallas Mavericks is, can they turn it around? Can they make this a series? And I think you tweeted this out either earlier today or yesterday after the game. You say that while the starting lineup has a good synergy, maybe it's time to shift it a bit so it aligns more with one player. Is that more or less what you were trying to say?
Yeah,
Like maybe have more energy shifted towards Lucas, so that he has since he's the one that's really scoring. Because we're being honest, if you look at the score sheets, if and see the game, both if Kyrie Irving has a 20-point game, who's to say maybe this series isn't 1-1, right? But
right.
he had 12 points in game one, and in game two he has 16 points. So uh,
Yeah.
you need him, right? But you're saying if he's not gonna, not you, but that's what I'm saying. If he's not
Mhm.
gonna be that player, then maybe you're saying that maybe they need to shift some lineups to be more favorable, to give Lucas energy more, I guess, synergy with
More
his
help.
teammates more than even he has now on the starting lineup.
Exactly. The way I see it is Boston has the way their game planning is they've shut down several key pieces for their offense, right? Completely. So which is forcing Luka to play more offense on himself, right? Rather than be that playmaker, right? So they again I mentioned earlier they've shut down that lob game, right? They have an elite defender in Drew Holiday guarding Kyrie Irving or even Derek White. I would love to call him an elite defender too, because he is one hell of a
He's good.
defender. He
He's
really is,
very
and
lively.
exactly. And then so the thing with that, Irving, he might be struggling, he might not be scoring a lot of points, but that's by design. I mean, Boston is a smart team, great defensive team. So Luka's doing a lot of the work, but the thing is, when you're shutting down, your co-star in Irving, though he's being shut down, and then you're kind of like playing on your own. You have these other players that you're playing with, but they don't really fit your synergy, your energy as much. I mean, PJ Washington does, but he's not having the best series overall. But so the way I was thinking, why don't you go ahead and put as much energies to benefit Luka Doncic? And the reason why I say that's important because synergy is key, right? Synergy
Mhm.
is like, well, players just get it. They know they know what you need to get the ball rolling, right? They don't even you don't even have to talk; they just do it, right? And those players are like the Dwight Powells, the Dante Exums, the Tim Hardaway Juniors, right? Josh Green even fits in there, right? And then any combination of those lineups, and you can even still include Kyrie Irving because he's a very potent offensive player, which they need to really focus on and guard him, and to keep you basically kind of use him as a decoy, right? and
Mhm.
and let Luca do his thing with all the energies that fits him. If you look at back, what was it 2021, 2020, when they still had Brunson, right? They made it all the Western. They made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals against the Golden State Warriors. Well, that team, they a lot of people look at that team at that time and say, "Man, what's so good about this Dallas Mavericks team? Why are they so good? They don't have any superstar except for Luca, right?" But he was very compatible with Jalen Brunson. Virgo, Pisces energy is very
Mm.
strong. That Tim Hardaway and then Junior was, and Reggie Bullock. Remember him? I mean, they were
Yeah.
they were doing their thing. And granted, they still lost the series, but what I'm trying to say is that they made it that far. Luca doesn't have that type of team now. What made him this far to the actual NBA Finals was the stardom. With Kyrie Irving, being his right hand man. That's what got him there. The talent. But what I'm trying to say is you're dealing with a very sophisticated team in Boston Celtics. Why
Mm.
not change it up to kind of changing up see what else you can bring to them, and that what I see is synergy. Help Luca out, and who knows, maybe they can get the ball rolling that way. So you know
Yeah, it's very peculiar, and I'm trying to see what Jason Kidd. One thing you told me before this series started. One thing you told me was that Jason Kidd because he's an Aries, right? He's a
yeah,
thinker from
very
outside the
aggressive.
box,
You're
very
right.
aggressive,
You're
but
right.
also thinks outside the box. And so I'm wondering, like, this is the time possibly if you're gonna want to turn the series around, maybe, and because Boston Celtics have figured out the Dallas Mavericks, right? There is
Yeah.
no more lob threat, and taking away that lob threat, it's easier for the Boston Celtics to defend Luka and Kyrie. And look, Kyrie just isn't getting that same separation as he was before. Luka is being Luka. In the first game he had 30 points. In the second game he had 32 points. So you're not going to stop Luka from scoring, right? But
Yeah.
if you can prevent everybody else from going off, and let's be honest, some of the Dallas Mavericks, some of their wing players, they've had good looks, they've had open shots. The shots are just not falling like how they were falling with the Minnesota against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, can the Dallas Mavericks turn it around? Here's my prediction. Right, my prediction was first. I said Boston in 7 games with Jaylen Brown as the Finals MVP. I'm going to change that and say Mavs win Game 3. Boston wins Game 4, and then they go back Boston and win Game 5, and they win it in 5. And I still think Jaylen Brown wins the Finals MVP. I think it's Drew Holiday's probably it's between him and Jaylen Brown at the moment. Granted, it's only 2 games in, but that's my prediction. That's what I think. I just think Boston has figured out how the Mavs play, how the Mavs want to operate. And here's the biggest thing: if the Mavs want a chance, at really turning this game around, what Jason Kidd should be is, hey, let's just push the pace. Luka, no more dancing outside. We need to push the pace. Because the reason, let's think back to the Eastern Conference Finals. The Indiana Pacers, while they didn't win a game, they were really close to having that be a 2-2 series, right? Or even they have a 1-0 lead a first game. They were scoring on this Boston Celtics team. And one reason was they were pushing the pace. But if you let the Boston Celtics set their half-court defense, all you're going to get is one-on-one points, which is what they're getting right now from Luka. So that's what I think that as members need to do. They need to push the pace, but that pushing the pace doesn't necessarily favor Luka. Luka likes to dance with the ball, right? That ISO ball. So, but that's my prediction. Maps win Game 3, Boston Game 4, and Game 5. Before we move on, do you have any final predictions like that? Changing your predictions, or you still think it goes 6 Boston?
Yeah, I mean, and that's to show respect to Dallas. I mean, to show even more respect to Game 7, right? But I mean, that's the way it's going right now. I still think that Dallas is a very good team. They can come back and do win a game or two here and there. So, but I still do think Boston is going to edge it out and win in Game 6. But yeah, so I'm sticking with 6 for now.
Sticking with 6. There we go. Somebody who is sticking to where they're at is Dan.
Yeah.
Dan Hurley with UConn. That's what we're talking about next with the Los Angeles Lakers. And the question for this one is, who should the Lakers target now that Dan Hurley, he turned them down and decided to stick it out with Connecticut and hopefully becoming the first team since John Wooden to win back-to-back national titles.
Right.
Dan Hurley returning to UConn. And before, and I know you tweeted about this whole process, but hypothetically, just, as the current team was made up, Dan Hurley, I remember you told me they were going to have to make some more changes for it to fit with astrologically with him, right? And as we know, him at UConn, he had his synergy. His team had synergy, and that's what we've seen. They have synergy over the past 2 seasons, and they've won back-to-back titles. So the question is, who should they target? Zodiac, and I'm gonna throw some names at you, right? And as I throw these names, you tell me what the sign is and how they fit with the current roster, right? Because we have to judge it on the current roster. We don't know what LeBron's gonna do, but we have to judge them on that, right? So the first one, JJ Redick, go.
Cancer, Cardinal energy. He works well with the combination of their two-headed monsters of Anthony Davis and JJ Redick, right? I mean,
which is big.
LeBron James, yeah, which is good, which is a good thing. He does connect well with LeBron, right? So the connection is there. There could be better connection with other candidates, but JJ Redick is a formidable connection. Vogel was a Cancer as well, and they won a championship in 2020, right? With LeBron and Davis leading the way. So yeah, he would work just fine. But again, the rest of the roster, it does need some tweaking to benefit LeBron James. I think really that's the actual issue, in my opinion, right? It's the rotational players, the role players surrounding even D'Angelo Russell, LeBron and Anthony Davis. So yeah.
Here's what was interesting is that LeBron told him, "Hey, you make this decision without me because I don't know what I'm doing." So that's what he told him. But it's difficult, right? Because in any decision, obviously, Lakers have to have him in the back of their mind, right? So
you're right.
So that's JJ Redick. Here's the other name I'm throwing at you: James Borrego.
That's him. I feel like he's the guy. I feel like he's the right guy for this team, man. James Borrego is a Scorpio with the Sagittarius moon, right?
Ooh, so and we know one thing I remember about Scorpios you told us is they're a culture setter, right? They're so give us some famous Scorpios coaches.
Eric Spoelstra,
Chris Finch.
Chris Finch is a Scorpio. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely
culture setters, like so.
Yeah,
so,
they set the tone,
Yeah.
So there, I feel like he's a perfect coach, and I know mentioning JJ Redick is a good candidate too, but James Borrego is the right coach for this team the way they currently are constructed, because he will set the tone. He's a culture setter, right? The Scorpios are the ones that like to take control of everything, and they do a great job at that, right? And with the Sagittarius moon, that helps. They're a little bit more positive too. And so I think Borrego would have a strong, really strong connection with both LeBron and AD. But I've heard rumors that because of the ties back in New Orleans, that Davis might not be happy with that, and that could be understandable.
Actually, it's the opposite. That Davis prefers James Borrego because of the relationship with the New Orleans Pelicans, because Borrego was there when they drafted Davis, so they have a relationship.
Oh.
It's the opposite, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's even better. So I'm not sure why they're not. I mean, to me, I was looking at all the candidates the other day, and I'm like, man, Borrego was a guy. I mean, because the other one I was thinking, the two was Mike D'Antoni. Mike D'Antoni was the other guy,
yeah.
But yeah, Borrego is the guy, and that's with the current roster.
It's interesting that you say that. This is from according to the Athletics Jovan Buha. He met with the Lakers. This was on June 5th. He met with the Lakers stakeholders last week at the team's practice facility and was impressive during his meetings, league and team sources said. So he was impressive. Maybe before Dan Hurley entered the picture, they had James Borrego as atop their board, or
Yeah.
So it's interesting you say him. I think that he will be good. I think he's done his due diligence. He's been an assistant coach for a long time. That's a great team. He was an assistant coach under Greg Popovich. Spent time with the Hornets, with the Pelicans, the Magic, Spurs twice. So, he's a two-time NBA champion as an assistant coach. I think he's there,
Yep,
So here's the other
definitely.
coach that I'm going to throw at you that I just saw. I had no idea, right? But it's a name from college. Jay Wright. Jay Wright, former Villanova head coach. He won 2 titles in 3 years. His birthday is Christmas Eve, Capricorn.
Interesting.
Capricorn. How would he fit with this with this Lakers team?
He would fit, but it was sort of equivalent to what JJ Redick is. So here's the thing with Cardinal Energy. LeBron is also a Capricorn, right? So is Dan Hurley is also a Capricorn. So is Rob Pelinka is a Capricorn. I mean, it's this leadership quality, which is a great thing. But the thing is, sometimes if you have too many of that, they could clash. Possibly. It's just a potential. Keyword is potential. Doesn't mean it's ever going to happen. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It's just a potential is there because of the way they bring themselves, right? That's the way their energy are. And that's what Jay Wright is. He's a Capricorn, right? And so is LeBron James. So the connection is good. You look at Tom Thibodeau is also a Capricorn, by the way, but they're very authoritative, right? So that's something that LeBron would like, but I'm not sure so much about Anthony Davis, right, or the rest of the team, right? I think that could rub him off the wrong way, possibly, but it's still the reason why I say it's still a good fit because of the leadership, the authoritative type of energy that they bring. They set the table, and they are results oriented, right? And that's what LeBron loves. LeBron loves that, right? But the thing is, if you do have that, you need more pieces to kind of, that will help that, So that's the reason why that's a good starting point. I would like to say more like for example, James Borrego is an ape, and then I would like to consider JJ Redick to Jay Wright to Dan Hurley's more like an A- B+, somewhere in that range, right? So yeah, so it's not like the bad, it's like the worst, not the worst or the bad. It's just that they're good enough to be formidable. So yeah.
Got it. Okay. Well, those are the 3 names that I've seen. Now here's the interesting thing about James Borrego, as you bring him back up again, is that he was also having meetings with the Cleveland Cavaliers, if I'm not mistaken. So he's a hot name that there are some teams also looking for head coaches. So that'll be interesting. But that is our third topic, and now our surprise topic. that you have no idea about Zodiac GM, but it's something you're very familiar with.
Okay.
And it has to deal with Rudy Tomjanovich. Rudy Tomjanovich, a Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame coach and one of only 9 coaches in NBA history to win back-to-back championship, is the recipient of the 2024 Chuck Daly Lifetime Achievement Award that was handed out before Game 2. Rudy Tomjanovich, obviously one of our favorite coaches here in Houston Zodiac, a coach that we know very well. Obviously not personally. I would like to, but not there yet.
Yeah.
But tell us about Rudy Tomjanovich. What kind of coach was he? What sign and how did his sign play in his back-to-back championships?
So the key thing with that, he first of all, he's a Sagittarius with a Virgo moon, double mutable, right? So they're very adaptable, flexible, and that's I've always felt that mutable coaches make great coaches because of that. Just that alone is a big deal, right? I mean, of course, every other coach has their strength, but yeah, his championship runs, I think what really also helped was that he did have Hakeem, one of the best players in the league, right? Yes, they just so happen to cross paths at the right time because their energies are like perfect for each other, right?
Really?
Because Hakeem is an Aquarius, right? The thing with an Aquarius in general, you do need that sort of you need to kind of let them be. Let them do what they do best. Try not to set too many rules, too many guidelines, because or else they're just going to break them, right? You kind of have to let them be. And the way the Rockets were coached was sort of like that, right? He was a player's coach, and that's something that Hakeem absorbed very well. And of course, since he's your go-to player, he's your best player, all the other energies around you sort of feed off of that, right? And he carried basically the whole team, right? I mean, that was Hakeem Olajuwon, right? So he had the right pairing with that, and also whenever Clyde came in the second championship run, Clyde he's a Cancer. They're of opposite energy, but it was enough because, as you remember, they weren't the best team. The second championship run, they were sort of like that mid. They even finished, I think, the 6th seed, right?
Yes, 6th
seed. But of course, it took them. What was it that Clutch City where they were like down? I think against Phoenix and Utah, I can't remember, but they came back, right? They came back, but what I'm trying to say is they came back. They had to work really, really hard to get there. It wasn't as easy. The synergy wasn't the best, but they had enough talent. They had enough stardom to make that happen and eventually win the championship, right? So Rudy T, great coach, Hall of Fame coach, and yeah, Sagittarius, Virgo, Moon, energy. That's the kind of energy that you give. So Sagittarius are one of the funniest people. They're like that because they bring that positivity into everyone. They're just very like happy-go-lucky. And then the Virgos are the hard workers. They're the networking signs. They're the one that connects people. So that's a great connection for great energy right there with Rudy T.
Rudy T, one of 9 coaches, and I think I was expecting him to have or wanted him to have a better coaching career after Houston Rockets. I know health had issues to do with it. I know he went to go coach Kobe Bryant. I always thought that would have been an interesting pairing, Virgo and a Sagittarius. I always wonder if health would have been better for Rudy. Maybe he could have had another great run and coaching success with the Lakers. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think that team matched up with them. I'll have to look it up. I'm not sure if you remember. I know Kobe was on that team. That's all I remember.
Yeah, Kobe was a Virgo. I don't think it would have been the best overall, but talent is talent, right? So
talent is talent, But Rudy T, he was our last topic. It's funny you bring up the second team, the second Houston Rockets championship team, because it makes sense, right? They struggled. Even after they got quadrupled, they kind of struggled with a 6th seed. But then I guess that's a situation where maybe like talent also overtook talent and heart, right? And everyone understanding the heart of a champion.
Yeah. So that's a perfect matchup right there. Perfect match for Rudy T and Hakeem Olajuwon, just for them to connect and cross paths during that time of their careers.
We Houstonians, and Bayou Cityans are forever grateful. That's the last topic we have. Zodiac GM, any final words on this episode?
Hey, follow us on Twitter X at Hoopstrology and also the Zodiac GM.
And follow me, Jesus_Acevedo Jr. And follow the Bayesidian. And don't forget to subscribe. See ya.